What's going on, guys? Magdallan here. I just finished leveling another character for a project that I'm looking forward to doing in the coming days. And as always, I used the Holopalm leveling strategy. And I wanted to make a quick addendum video, as it were, for my original Holopalm leveling guide that I released quite a few months ago at this point. I got a lot of questions at the time of that release, as well as in the intervening months, about whether or not you could do it as a witch. And so I'm here to answer that question. The answer is yes. And I want to quickly talk about some changes as a result of the current league and the state of the market, as well as, show the tree and maybe just go over some quick footage, maybe run one yellow map or something to show that you don't have to go straight into 5-ways. If you don't want to, the build's capable of at least doing some white and early yellow maps before you have to make any significant changes to it. And that's about it. So let's jump into it here. So the changes as far as the current league: the addition of the ascendancies, particularly the Warden of the Magi, whatever, the one where you can have unsocketed helm or boots and get either 50% additional elemental resistance or 30% movement speed, respectively, have really changed the game as far as the smoothness of the process. You can essentially set things up so that as you are going through the campaign, you take advantage of the movement speed, and then as you get towards the end of it and even into early maps, you can switch all the gems from your helmet to the boots and then not have to worry as much about the dreaded resistance decline as you finish off Kitava and complete the campaign. And so that has made the process quite a bit smoother. The other major change is that Magebloods are relatively attainable for most folks, I think, in this league, certainly in comparison to previous leagues. I don't want to condescend down to, players who struggle to get 100 div or, 150 div, whatever the case is, in a given league. If you're one of those people, then yes, you might still have some trouble affording a Mageblood, but especially if you are in the position where, normally towards the end of the league, you can afford a Headhunter or a Mageblood, or you start buying some luxury items towards the middle of the league, you should be in a position where farming the 115, 120 div that a Mageblood costs currently should be a non-trivial but certainly attainable goal. And so in previous incarnations of a Holopalm guide, I personally would not have recommended Mageblood, in the sense that they were so expensive that it just didn't make sense. Whereas in this case, it was attainable and also proved to be an extremely useful and fun addition to the strategy, although you certainly do not need one. You could just as easily go for the Magnate, or even just stick with your Maginord's Girdle, or run the traditional Darkness Enthroned with a couple Bis Jewels in it, and you would be good to go. But I needed the Mageblood for the build that I'm going to make this character into, and so I went ahead and grabbed it ahead of time and used it for the build. The flasks that I used were as follows. We've got a sulfur flask, an amethyst flask, a granite flask, and obviously the quicksilver flask. So the Mageblood was definitely a good addition. And then, I guess real quickly, I don't want to go over everything that I went over in the original build guide, but just in case there are some folks watching that have not done the strategy before, you will need a 7-league step, one of the belts that I just mentioned. You will need a tabula rasa, preferably one that has 50% increased damage on it. Sometimes you can find some that have +1 to socketed skill gems, stuff like that. At this point in the league, spend a div, whatever the cost is. Just grab one with a good implicit. There's no reason not to. And then a Call of the Void ring, very important. 1 Astramentus, a gold rim, and a Le Hoop de All. Le Hoop of All. I don't know why I always want to say Le Hoop de All, but nonetheless. So grab all of that stuff, and then for your first 5, 10 levels, whatever the case is, before you can start smiting everything to death, grab yourself a Karui Ward, a little quiver there with just a little physical damage on it. You could just skip this. You don't necessarily need it, but I had one. Grab yourself a Lactonial Caress, a couple Black Hearts, and then a silver branch. And you're going to throw your chance to poison and caustic arrow in there, and that will easily get you through to the point where you can equip all of the following gems. Vol Smite, added fire damage, life tap. This is something that I did not see talked about much in other guides. Life tap makes it run way smoother. Ancestral Call, Ruthless, and faster attacks. And then as you level up and are able to acquire them, you will want a Flame Dash. You can use Frost Blink earlier. Then you will want a Herald of Ice when that becomes available. And finally, an Elemental Weakness. And that's it. No other gems. You don't mess with anything else. You get it set up. You blast. You just go through the campaign. It's quick. It's easy. A couple things to note in terms of the skill tree, which I will post a link so that you can get in here and look at the entire skill tree. But I'll just go over this real quick because there are a couple things that you're going to want to keep in mind. So obviously, as soon as you can, go ahead and grab your Oath of the Magi, however that's pronounced. We're going to come up through here. We're going to rush straight to our jewel socket, and that is where you will need to put your one with nothing. And then you are going to rush down, and we want precise technique. We want this accuracy cluster, because you are not going to have the accuracy that you need, especially as you begin to scale life later. This will end up being a dead node if you don't pay attention to it, so go ahead and grab this early on. Next most important thing is this Cold Mastery here. That will be a very noticeable upgrade to your damage. And then this Attribute Mastery is very important. Then we're going to come down here, and you want to make sure and grab Ambidexterity, very important. And then over here, when you can, this is the least important of the things I've just mentioned, but still very useful, grab this little attack cluster here so that you can get non-vol skills, strike targets, target one additional nearby enemy. And then for me, again, this is another thing that I've noticed is different from the way that other folks tend to set this up. I think that Leech is very important, especially since I tend to use Life Tap. You're going to want to grab Clever Thief fairly early whenever you have the opportunity. Now, one thing that I did not do during my playthrough that you certainly could is when you get all the way down here, you could unspec those 3 points that you saw up here for this cluster set and throw them in here, save yourself a few points, use those points to grab your Clever Thief or something else that you are working towards. Of lesser importance is grabbing things like Forces of Nature later on, and coming up here and grabbing Heart of Oak, stuff like that. But generally, this is the tree. This is the way that I set it up for my witch. It was very easy, no problem. And another thing to note is that in my case, I was running as an occultist, and early on, you will find that you're going to get stunned a lot. And when you complete the first lab, go ahead and take Vile Bastion, and you should have just a little sliver of energy shield. And that will be enough to get this going, and it will prevent you from being stunned as long as you have some energy shield. And that will make it so that your relatively low attack speed compared to other variants, other starting classes for your smite, and particularly the Vol Smite, it will reduce the likelihood that you are going to get stun locked and killed while you are running through things. And then as you are progressing through the campaign, take Void Beacon, and then finally Frigid Wake. Frigid Wake basically nullifies, as far as I understand it, the downside of the Call of the Void. So again, just another thing that makes the process a little bit smoother, a little bit more fun. And as you can see, I am cruising. Let's go ahead and throw in... Oh, I've already got one here. Just a scoured shore map, tier 6, just so that I can show you that you can absolutely run this into maps and grind a few more levels if you're not wanting to spend what I think is kind of an astronomical and, frankly, I guess I would even say a unfair price for 5 ways at this time. I paid 7 div for 5 runs on this character, and the profit margin there must just be really good for the people doing it. I'm not going to worry about that bear. So as you can see, we're just kind of running through. There's the Vol Smite. Crushing everything. No problem at all. You could probably even alch these and still make it through. I have not switched. As you see, took some damage there. I haven't switched to the elemental res. I haven't moved the gems from my helm into my boots so that I can benefit from the Ellie res. So I believe my lightning resistance is uncapped. And so I would probably take a death if I alched the map. But you could certainly switch the gems around, have the resistance that you need. I'm going to go ahead and curse this guy. I'm not sure how the boss damage is going to be here. We're going to find out. It's not too bad. Again, it'll get the job done. If you don't want to go straight into 5 ways and worry about that, or you just kind of want to level a little bit further, maybe even you got to the end of the campaign and you're a few levels under what you can reasonably get into a 5-way with. Vol Smite again. I mean, Vol Smite is just so good. It's one of those skills where you level up using it, and then it just, I wonder if anybody's made a build that is just straight up Vol Smite, you know, end game style. I'd be interested in even just playing that because it feels really good. Very satisfying skill. All right, I think that's enough of that. You can see, you can easily clear out this map if that is your desire. And you can grab a few extra levels after you've completed the campaign. No problem there. And, let's see, I want to make sure that there wasn't anything else that I wanted to cover. We talked about accuracy. Yeah, so, and as you can see, that's my life total. Not too terrible. Now, of course, I am significantly higher level than I would have been when I ended the campaign. I did, as I said, 1 set of 5 ways. I think when I walked into white maps to grab my, I think I finished the campaign at 65 or 66, so I did actually level the last few levels up to 68 in white maps, and so I believe I had about 2K, 2100, somewhere in that vicinity. So, yeah, we'll go ahead and call it there. Holopalm, still great, still fun to do, works just fine on the Witch. Throw on your occultist ascendancy if you desire, and that will make it a little bit easier. Feel free to, as I did, indulge in the booze and grab yourself a cheap Mageblood and enhance your experience even further, as well as taking advantage of no socketed gems in your boots and getting that additional 30% movement speed. Hell, you could even see about getting a corrupted 7-league step. I think you can get even more movement speed on them that way. So, by all means, still good, still fun. Give it a shot. I will see you guys in the next video. If you found this interesting or engaging, please do give me a like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. And I will see you in the next one.